webinar. So if you do want to show it back to any colleagues, then you'll receive a link afterwards to access that. Okay, so I think I shared this via email before, but it's probably going to take maybe about sort of 20-25 minutes or so to go run through the main content. And what I want to do is discuss just the overview of the pilot again. What does the preparations look like? What will it look like to actually send out kind of communications and the launch? We're going to give a demo of what the digital badge side of things are going to look like, particularly from a student's perspective. I want to talk briefly about the evaluation of how that works throughout the pilot, what support we're going to be able to give you. And I've put Q&A at the end, but it would be great to have this as interactive as possible. So I think everyone's already had a play with the chat. So feel free, as you think of ideas or questions, just post them in there. Okay, so just to kind of just set the context again, our mission really with this is to provide young people with a safe and an online space where they can develop evidence and share their skills with the purpose of accessing further education, further training, and ultimately work opportunities, whether that's work experience or full-time employment. And we really feel that there's been a number of initiatives over the past few years. Many of you will be familiar with like the East Sussex County Council passport, employability passport, the paper-based one. We've been working over the last couple of years now to evidence skills, employability skills using digital badges. So this pilot is about offering all of those services and all of the skills and the tools that we've built up and to your students. So as an overview, for your choice of year group, what we do is we provide all accounts on our platform, and when they submit evidence, for example, for teamwork or reliability or any of their types of skills, then we provide the verification of that. You know, we review the evidence and hit award, and then the students gain a digital badge that they can then use to recognize and share their skills. And all students will get a personal online profile that they can share out with employers. And then the employers can also endorse those skills. So, for example, following a work experience opportunity, they can add their comments to add sort of further weight and proof to help them access further opportunities. So the overall timeline, kind of broadly, four main stages, I guess, which is the kind of onboarding and, you know, answering any of your questions, allowing you some time to talk with your colleagues about any potential issues. Then over the next few months, there's some preparatory type activities, for example, agreeing which students you're going to be using. I think a lot of you seem to be thinking around year 9. Or the new year 9s coming in September. And then throughout September will be a kind of a launch. So that might be whole year awareness and also some training and some resources for the teaching staff who will be involved. And then we just enter the kind of live operations. So during that's when the students are just uploading videos or photos, and so on. And then we've got a few review points throughout the project just to find out how things are going, any improvements that we can make. So that's an outline overview of the whole project. And what I thought we would do now would be to actually pass over to my colleague who's sitting by the side of me now, Harriet, to show you what the platform looks like from a user point of view. And I'm just seeing a comment from Giselle saying that she can't hear. Can everybody else hear me okay? Just pop your comments in the chat. So Cheryl, yes. All good. So I'm sorry, Giselle. All I can suggest is perhaps trying to rejoin. I'll write a quick message to Giselle. Okay, so thanks, Sarah. Right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to share my screen. And hopefully can everybody see now a sort of pinkish background? Whoops. Yeah, could you just let me know, can you see, find work experience that suits you? Emily says yes. Yep. Okay, going to hand over to Harriet for a brief demo.
Hello. So I'm logged in as a student because I thought that's probably the view you want to see the most. So each student has their own personal profile, which looks like this. So they can put in information a little bit about themselves, their extracurricular activities and interests, and also if they have any idea of what they actually want to do when they're older or at college, they can put that in. Of course, they can put, I have no idea, and we often find students at that age don't have any idea, so that's fine. All of this is part of helping them find out what they're good at and what they want to do. And then what they'll do is go up to explore and explore skills. So we've uploaded all the badges for this project, all the employability badges. Blue ones are skills and the yellow ones are attitudes. So what was our student's name? Sorry. So Grace had said she wanted to be a graphic designer, so maybe she'd go for creativity. So all they do is click on it, they can read a bit of information about what the badge covers, and they can see the task that they're going to have to do. So for this one is upload an artifact that demonstrates their creativity and then describe what they've done, what inspired them, and how they did it. So I'll go through the process of actually earning the badge so you can see how simple it is for them. All they do is click add evidence, and then they can select a file from their computer, add a link, or type directly into a text box. So test for this example, and then they hit submit. And then open the badge back up, and you can see the evidence is now in there. So I must have hit twice because it's in there twice. There we go. And so for the second task, exactly the same process. And then back within the badge, if they're happy with it, they can review and then just hit claim. And what will happen is we'll get an email, we'll have it reviewed by our team, and if it's sufficient, the badge will be awarded. We're aiming to do that within 48 hours for this project. So it's nice, quick turnover for the students. And then they can display it on their profile. So if I go back there, once it's awarded, it'll appear in this skills section underneath, which they can then share with employers or colleges, or in the future universities when they're ready to apply.
I think it's also just worth mentioning, because we're using open badge technology, I'm not going to get too techy, but it means that any platform that supports open badges, of which there are many, so you'll probably all be familiar with Moodle. Moodle supports open badges. They're able to download those their badge, They're able to upload it to any supporting platform, and the evidence goes with them. So if it's a link to, say, a YouTube video of them making a painting or some photographs, that badge will still work. So they're not completely tied to this platform as they move through the kind of education system, if you like. Okay.
Yep.
Just thought I'd mention that.
Yeah. So that's basically it for how it will act with students. If the evidence doesn't hit the standards, we'll leave feedback and say how they can achieve each task and return it to them, and then they can make as many submissions as they want to. We're going to have no restriction on that, so they can build up their evidence and get a really strong submission.
Yeah. Okay, so I think that's probably quite a nice, natural point to pause and just really ask anyone if they've got any immediate questions. Is there anyone who would like to have a go at asking the question by voice rather than text? Because what I can easily do is just unmute you, assuming you've got a microphone attached to your computer. It's all gone very quiet. So, will you be able to add your own badges? That's really interesting. So we've talked about this in the team, and what we think we would like to do is to have an element of consistency, but if there are, basically new badge suggestions, new skills that you want to create, we think that you can have basically propose a badge type button, or email your suggestions to us, that we can then either decide that that's perhaps is covered, or we can create the badge. So I think it's we're definitely not anti that approach at all. Okay, Joe's question. Discussed on the phone whether it's possible to moderate the terminology for schools. We use passport to employability, for example. So Joe, just remind me, where would you want to see passport to employability? Do you see that as actually as a badge name, or somewhere else on the site? I'll just let Joe type a reply to that.
I think one thing we're really keen on as well is to keep up the communication. So if things change, if different colleges want to use different things, we'd like to talk about it to all of the schools and colleges involved and kind of come to a general consensus for going forwards, instead of one party always being in control. Yeah,
I mean, I think this is also part of the idea of having the reviews to some degree. Like, if there's together, we all think, what would be great to have a grit badge or resilience or something that doesn't exist. So we can create that. So more questions coming through. So you'd like to use the 4 areas of creativity, teamwork, for example. Yeah, I can see that. I guess one thing, I think from an employer's point of view is we want to try and make sure it's consistent, so that if they see a badge for, let's say, teamwork, but another school wanted team player, but they're really, really close, that we just agree what we're going to go for. So I think it feels like we could probably need to go around the loop again and deciding exactly which badges that we use for Go Live. Maybe after this call, I could send around a link to a document that you could all review and all just put your ideas of what basically what skills and attitudes and behaviors you as a school want to recognize, and then we're happy to just look at those and decide what is going to be the main set that we launch with. Does that sound workable? Sounds good. And yes, so so Sarah's question, can we put our own logo on this? So for example, yeah, we've talked about again a kind of a white label version. There's a bit of technical stuff to do in order to provide that. We're looking into it. It might change how the login process works, because you'd have to have a specific login that you'd log into your version. So you might go to, yourschool.digitalguild.co.uk or something like that. But again, if there's a big demand for that, then it's definitely something that we could to do. Okay, Joe says it'll be really helpful to send a link for a document listing the badges. Yep, and I can set if you like, the permissions on that document so that everybody on this call can all collaborate and add their comments and feedback, so that we've got an agreed set to go live with. Because I can't imagine there'll be too much difference in terms of the skills that we're aiming to recognize. Okay, so yeah, I'll make a note to do that this afternoon. I'll send it out to everyone via email. Okay, so if I just go back to I've lost where I see my.
You have to drop it back in.
Oh, really? Sorry, I seem to have lost the slides that I was sharing. Okay, so Cheryl's question: can we create school-specific badges? I think if we go down the route of basically having a kind of a customized version with logos, then it means that we know exactly what version or what platform your school is going on to. That would be one implementation. Another idea could be a link where the students then click on the school that they're part of. So we just need to think a little bit about how we can support that. At the moment, it's kind of one size fits all. So you all see the same. You all see the same badges. But I can take that back to our developers and ask. Okay, so if I'll just finish. I'll just kind of now run through. I mentioned in the timeline the main sort of 4 stages. So if I just pick up a little bit more detail on each of those. Presumably, can I just double check you can all see my screen again? Sorry, this is the first time I've ever used this. Okay, great. Okay, so what we're hoping to do in June would be to send out the teacher account, so you'd be able to log in, and also a comms pack. So the comms pack will just literally be some copy explaining what the project is all about, which you can then share internally in a consistent way, and also out with parents to let them know what we're planning for the following academic year. In July is where you would just upload your student groups, and what we think is the best way of doing this is you would just create a fairly small CSV type file or an Excel spreadsheet, probably going to have about 4 or 5 columns in, which will be, first name, last name, date of birth, so that they can actually log in. And then in September, as part of the prepare session, we'll host probably another one of these just to show click by click what you would do. By that point, you've all been able to log in and you understand how the students would log in as well. So Any late starters who join in September, we'd add their accounts as well in September, and also just publicize it again with the year group to know, so they know what they're able to do. Oh, Joe's comment, we'll need to send the upload regarding students via secure email, of course. Well, actually, instead of even emailing it to us, you would have the permission to just upload them yourselves. So there wouldn't be any email of sensitive student data in the first place. Okay, so that is covered. Okay. Okay, so yeah, as Harriet kind of mentioned, from October probably throughout until May 19 is where students really are just uploading, and I like to keep saying naturally occurring evidence. So, you know, the idea would be it's during an art lesson, suddenly says someone that really exemplifies your creativity. I think you should take a few photos of that and submit it to earn your badge. Or it's, you know, it's towards the end of the year and they've got 100% attendance. Well, that could be used for reliability. So we're not really expecting a huge amount of additional work from the students to do this. It's just a matter of really capturing what they do already. And some of those attitudes and behaviours may be outside of the school, you know. So maybe they've been playing the piano for the last 10 years, and they could use that. And in terms of the review, so we're really keen to capture feedback to make improvements. So we'll probably schedule 3 of these calls just to find out how it's going, find out what the students think. Is there anything else that we can do? And then in terms of support, then we've got a dedicated email line, so you can get hold of us at any point. Harriet's going to be leading on the project from both sort of project management side and also looking after the technical side, and also managing the process of the skills verification. And then anything that needs escalating, you can contact me, who's acting as the program manager for this. Okay, I said 25 minutes, so it's 5 to 4. So we've had a few questions, but is there anything else that anyone would like to ask? Anything general or specific? Or even any comments about, is everything that you expected? Is it different? Do you think it's gonna be successful? So Cheryl's question, can parents and teachers see what badges students get? Yeah, absolutely. So students have their basically their public profile. So it's a little bit like, imagine LinkedIn. So where you've got your when you log in, you can make some edits, but you've also got a public shared profile. So any parent who goes onto their public profile would see not only all of the skills, but they'd also see the evidence. So Sarah's question, can teachers approve evidence? Well, to be honest, so right now the system does allow that, i.e. there is, we can make that permissionable, i.e. there's a permission to just turn on or off the ability to do that. In our early conversations with this, with the likes of Caroline, one of the biggest barriers we thought was basically kind of teacher time. So what we wanted to do with this was actually to take that sort of additional workload off teachers, and also to provide some kind of consistency from a QA point of view. So I would think that for the core employability skills, we would centrally do the approvals. If you had, say, school-specific badges, Okay, so there might be something about, I don't know, the sports, something. I think we could definitely look to say giving teachers the ability to do that. Another bit of feedback we also had from students actually was it might have more weight if they feel that the credential, the badge, had actually been awarded by a third party rather than from their school. So with our students, they give a lot more weight if something has been awarded by, say, University of Brighton or University of Sussex than ourselves. So yeah, I think I feel like there's a good argument for keeping the central approval with a sort of a third party, i.e., it will be approved by the Digital Guild. Will be an app, says Cheryl. Right now, no. However, we've built the site completely from the ground up to be mobile responsive. So it works on a phone. It will work on an iPad. It will work on any tablet, any phone. And I imagine that if students have got access to their phones and they're allowed access to their phones in class, it's actually probably the easiest way to upload evidence, because they can take a photo, they can record a video. But I guess that also depends on your own policy on mobile device usage in class. So basically, the fact that it doesn't have an app, a dedicated app, shouldn't be a barrier at all. When they hit browse, for example, they're uploading a video, maybe they took on an iPad, it will just load the inbuilt camera gallery, and they'll be able to choose a photo or a video from there. Okay, but yeah, that's a great point. Anything else? Yeah, absolutely, Sarah. Of course. And Joe, thank you. Good. And again, if any of the techie guys have got any questions about the site, what it's built on, what access controls there are, any of the security, etc. Yeah, things like that. Then they can get in touch with me directly as well. If you need us to, just to run a test, that's really easy to do. We're very close to being able to do it right now. Right at this very moment, the whole website is just behind. It's actually behind a firewall because it's not live yet. But within a couple of weeks, we'll be able to do a test for that. And oh yeah, Harriet's just written me a quick note. You're familiar with GDPR, or you've heard of GDPR. So when the students actually log in for the very first time, there is basically a GDPR statement that just invites students to just confirm that they're happy to use the platform. Is there a minimum age for the pilot? There is, and we've decided that it's 13. Yeah, 13 is the minimum age. Can you get every year group involved? Yes. So there's no limit on how many years you want to include. I think from looking at the feedback we had on the Google form that we sent out, about 70 or 80% of the schools were looking at year 9, but a couple of colleges were actually looking at year 13. So it's quite a wide range, really. I've also just unblocked your microphone. It sounds terrible. So if you wanted to, I think you can just probably try and turn on your mics if you just want to ask a question rather than write anything. There's a little icon up in the top right on my screen where you just turn your mic on, if you've got one. Okay. Any further questions? How about something for key stage 2 in the future? I think we'd have the reason we set 13, I think, as the limit is mainly around data privacy and protection rules. So we already have the ability to make a profile private, i.e. to turn that off. And in fact, teachers and admins can opt to make a profile basically private. So I think there's real scope for Key Stage 2, provided we kind of get the, we just need to make the security permissions different to ensure, just for safeguarding perspectives. It's kind of ironic because I think just in terms of the sort of target age, the idea of collecting and earning badges is absolutely right for Key Stage 2. My daughter is 10 and she loves what we've done and wants her own profile. So yeah, completely agree. And thank you, Joe. Yeah, it's very thorough. Will the platform host badges from other providers? Okay, that's really interesting. So I think it doesn't happen. It's not supported right now, but at the moment, I mentioned right at the top of the call that we're using open badges, it means that the students can download their badges from here and put them elsewhere. It also works the other way. So, for example, if they earn a badge from another provider, they would be able to download it from there and then upload it. So therefore, over time, the Digital Guild could become their online presence. Perhaps if they had, I don't know, something from Cubs, Scouts, or Guides, or Duke of Edinburgh or Crest. A number of those organisations are looking to provide open badges, so they will just be able to import those and add them to their profile. In a fairly new version, we'd like to have this live for September. We're not quite sure yet, but actually we can give a student multiple profiles. So they could have one that they shared with, say, their parents, which had everything on, and they may have another, perhaps if they were in year 11, which just had their kind of purely academic skills that they might share with an employer. So you actually get two different windows into the same student, but different skills. So maybe they didn't want to share their, I don't know, sports badges with when they're going for an interview. So you'd be able to just turn them on or off based on what the students wanted to share. Yeah, Digital Guild is your backpack. That's spot on terminology. It's exactly what it is. Yes. Sorry. So if it is something they update, can they remove badges with more juvenile evidence? Yeah, in fact, that element is already available. You can just, once you've earned a badge, you don't delete it. you can just make it public or private, and you can do that right now. So you can just hide it. So you still have it. If in the future, 10 years down the line, you go, oh yeah, I got a model making badge once or something, it doesn't disappear. But you don't want to, if you don't want to share it, you just make it private. There you go, Cheryl. You could upload all of your previous badges. I mean, serious point really, because this supports multimedia, so photographs and videos. You actually could, if you had some certificates from the past, or maybe an organization that doesn't use open badges, but they give you a paper certificate of your 500-meter swimming badge. There's nothing to stop you just uploading that as your evidence. Okay, so this is it's really intended to be a way of bringing the real world artifacts, storing them somewhere safe so that they're no longer just lost on a USB stick or on an old phone. It's about trying to release that evidence and keeping it in a consistent place so they can access for hopefully several years. And we've tried to design the site so that it doesn't feel particularly aimed at a particular age. So it's not cute and fluffy. It's a professional space to be. So whether you're 13 or 25, you would be proud to share it with an employer. Or even in the future, we can imagine you sending this to a college if you were about to apply, or even as part of your UCAS application to a university. We know that UCAS, registrars or uni registrars love these extracurricular type skills. So quick one, Sarah. Yes, it's just an online link, just as you would be sharing your LinkedIn profile. So it would be something like thedigitalguild.co.uk/P for profile / first name, surname, something like that. And Cheryl, is there evidence that employers are going to start looking for accepting digital badge evidence? Yes, in fact, we were at the Big Futures show yesterday, and the idea is that employers would be able to share work experience opportunities on this platform, and they'd be able to specify the skills that they're looking for. So they may say, we're looking for students who have got reliability, teamwork, problem solving, and initiative. And therefore, when a student earns those 4 badges, it means that they're able to apply. So I think the short answer is the awareness is growing. It's not wholly out there yet. So we've got some work to do to support that. But of the employers, all the employers we spoke to yesterday, they got it very, very quickly, and they could see how this could be used to help, I guess, motivate students, and also provide a more consistent way of defining what are they looking for.
We should say actually as well that there are very large companies, global companies, that are using them. They recognize the skills of young people, but also use them for CPD. So IBM, Siemens, quite a lot of tech companies are all looking at them, interested in them. So it's out there in the bigger world as well. It's not an isolated thing.
Yeah. No, good question. Okay, so it's 4:10. It feels like we've covered a lot of your questions. As I said, feel free to email anything else that may spring to mind, as you're driving home tonight and you go, should have asked that. we'll put a link together now and share it out with you to basically almost like crowdsource ideas for any additional badges that you'd like to go live with, and then we can look at that and feedback. And if there aren't any more questions, we'll wrap up there. And then I think the next step will probably be in about 4 weeks or so, where we'll be sharing with you your accounts where you can actually go in and log on, familiarize yourself with the platform, and also we'll send out those kind of communications packs that you can share both internally and out with parents too. Okay. All right. So thank you, everybody. Thanks for joining. And yeah, I look forward to speaking with you all soon.
Thank you.